If you've been watching since episode 1, you know that I'm Jenna and I started a nonprofit called Harmonic Harvest. And this is Weaving Silver Linings, a docu-series that captures how H granted $100,000 to 12 different Wisconsin entities who are trying to make a positive impact in their communities in various ways through social gatherings. I created this grant because I wanted to thank the people that would be on the Harmonic Harvest app. When this app is complete, you will be able to find social gatherings the way that you find a gas station or a restaurant. But I don't just want you to be able to know how to attend. I want you to know that there are volunteer opportunities for you, your family, and if there are services that needed to be provided. So these entities anywhere around the world right now can register on harmonicharvest.org so that when the app is complete, you're already one step ahead of the game. So for free, you would be able to go on Harmonic Harvest app and people can find you. They could see that there are volunteer opportunities. They could see that you need services that they provide. Maybe they gift them, donate them, give you a discount, maybe you pay full price. This type of stuff is already happening in our communities right now. I'm just trying to build a bridge, fill some gaps, and really create a system that I think would be highly beneficial for us, all of us as humanity. So if you want to hear more about the app, there's a separate video explaining this way more in detail. We are halfway done with meeting the grant recipients in season 1. There are 6 more to go. I didn't want Harmonic Harvest's overall mission to get lost by just putting so much spotlight on the people that host these social gatherings, because I believe everyone involved is what makes it possible. So maybe you're attending and you're helping celebrate whatever space this entity is trying to provide for us as a resource. Maybe it's celebrating or healing or learning, or there's so many things. Watch the series and you'll keep learning. Check out the Instagrams and socials and website. We need to stay focused. So I think that even the people who help, the decorations, the entertainment, it all adds value. But we're not even talking about, who brought the food and where did that come from? Did it come from a farm? And where did it go from the farm all the way to the social gathering, or a volunteer standing over it, making sure that everyone gets fed that day? And there's just like such amazing ripple effects that happen when you really look into all of these aspects of social gatherings. And I think the more that we talk about it, the more that we appreciate the people that pick up our garbage the next day after the gathering is over, and the accountant that is helping the business effectively do what they need to do so they can help the community the way that they are. And watch the video about the Harmonic Harvest app and you'll hear me go way more into rants about how I feel about all these different aspects of things. But for now, I wanted to let you know that I wanted to put spotlights on volunteers, mentors, and people that provide services. So in this episode, you are going to meet Cookie and Danika. There's a spoiler alert. Cookie is on a mission to give away 100,000 origami cranes to people that are working towards peace. And I love that she's doing this. It's just a fraction of the things that she does. It helps teach us that there are different ways that we can help people. It isn't, there's such a variety. So if you know anyone that volunteers, go on harmonicharvest.org and nominate them today. If you know a place that frequently has volunteers, please, let them know that they can go on harmonicharvest.org and nominate someone to be celebrated and uplifted and acknowledge that they're not looking for anything in return when they do these things, but we can learn a lot from them. We can award them and maybe a little bit more. So Cookie ended up giving Big Brother, Big Sister, Metro Milwaukee 1,000 cranes after this whole experience with the collaborative conversation and it's just been really neat to see. She also gave 1,000 cranes to another one of our award recipients. So stay tuned for the season to find out who, and enjoy Danika. She is a big, and really I appreciate her dedication to helping other people, to the point where I met Neil on Monday. I told him about Harmonic Harvest, the mission. I didn't tell him how much money they were going to receive if they wanted to participate. I just let them know, like, this is, the grant recipients helped me learn all the things I needed to learn before I went public, and anyone in Wisconsin can apply until February 10th on harmonicharvest.org. If you know anybody, please let them know that they can register their entity and apply to the grant. But, the first season I really had to reach out and let people know. So when I talked to Neil, that was on Monday. On Wednesday, he came to the collaborative conversation. And then on Friday, I'm doing his one-on-one interview. And because, we're trying to do this so quick, and I'm thinking about how I'm putting together this docu-series, which I never thought I would be doing something like this. And I'm thinking I need to show more perspectives, because that's what I do. And that's so important to me, to keep showing different angles of things. And, I'm like, is there anyone that volunteers or mentors that would like to be a part of this interview? And it's super last minute. He found out right before his interview, basically. And I'm like, we can schedule it a different day. We don't have to do it right now. I just have this idea, and I want to incorporate in the video. And basically Danika came through right away, and she's just so inspiring. So enjoy these two women. And then there's going to be another episode where you can meet C and B Creative, two women who have helped me, Harmonic Harvest, when I had to have a social gathering. It was a collaborative conversation. It was put together so quickly, 2 weeks. And, I had to reach out because I cannot do this all on my own. And so I needed support. So I contacted Kayla and Jazz, and they really came through for me. And I even talk about in their episode how appreciative I am of even the person that helped me carry the slab of wood from my car to the inside event space, where Brian, being Now Art, would, draw while we were speaking, and then eventually use that as inspiration to carve into a piece of wood. So I wanted that piece of wood there. And, how nice is it that someone helped me carry that, and just showing the gratitude for people like them and what they do. And I hope to continue to put a spotlight on all aspects of these people that are making a difference. So I hope you enjoy these episodes. And I just have to say quickly, Happy New Year. And just on days like this, I'd love to think about, what are we stepping away from and what are we stepping into? And just being super mindful, not just on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, but every day and within all of our moments, and just trying to be really aware and just mindful about what we're aligning with and what resonates with you, and not trying to feel like you have to be caught up in the busyness of this society and this world and what other people are doing or what they want you to be doing. I hope that you are really just, being just conscious of what is your life, because it can be whatever you want it to be. If there are people, places, or things that you need to set boundaries with, or you don't like your job, make the steps to work towards the life that you want to create. And I know, speaking firsthand, it's not always easy, but the more you keep taking those steps forwards, the more you're going to get where you want to be. All right, enjoy Cookie and Danika.
You're welcome. I have to engrave it yet. And I would like to make a $5,000 donation to a social gathering of your choice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Would you like to share with people a little bit more about yourself, what you do? And we'll go from there.
It is so fun to be here. and to meet so many of you. I don't walk well much anymore, so I haven't gotten around to everybody. And I wish I could have met more of you in the back, including you, who has been, pouring our libations. Thank you all for all of your work, for being here and supporting Jenna and what she wants to do. I mean, I'm privileged now to be a relative of hers. I was raised Catholic. At my first confession, I lied. That kind of gives you kind of the trajectory of my life in the Catholic Church. And I've had a love-hate relationship with Catholicism. The hate part is half the world is not really welcome. Half of us can't be priests. And not that I want to, I don't. But I do welcome women who want to be priests, and it really bothers me that, as I said, half the world isn't invited.
More than half.
So there's that. Then there's the alcoholism, there's pedophilia, there's, this, there's that. So I've struggled my whole life with being a member. But what it has taught me, that most Catholic churches don't tell you, is that instead of doing this, name, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, amen, it really started with, who am I? Where am I going? Pardon me, I'm a little nervous. Who am I? Where have I come from? And where am I going? Now, that is a whole different thing. You can't say that fast. That has meaning. This doesn't have meaning if you're just saying blah, 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 blah. So that's something that I live with is, really, who am I? Where have I come from? And where am I going? Not just where am I going to go home, but ultimately, what am I doing with my life? So that's, one huge thing that Catholicism has taught me kind of on the side. Most Catholics don't know that. One thing that Catholics don't talk about a whole lot either is now I'm having a little brain freeze. What they are, they're the works of mercy, and they are feeding the hungry, and they are visiting the imprisoned, and they are, clothing the naked, and, on and on. And those are things that I've done all my life in small ways. I was a guidance counselor at a Catholic high school here in town, and I would have a clothing drive for Appalachia, and I would say to the students, fill my office, make it so that I can't even get in there. And they would. And I would call Channel 4 or Channel 12, and I would say, I need a truck. I need a truck that will go to Appalachia. And Kathy Michaelby or somebody else would come and interview me and say, what do you want? And I would say, a truck to go to Appalachia with, this whole room full of clothes, and the students would, haul it out and throw it in there. St. Ben's, where I would have this love-hate relationship on 10th and State, has a meal program. And I can't say I started that. I didn't, but 40 years ago, we started it. It feeds people 6 days out of the week and 600 to 700 people a night. That's what churches should be doing, is feeding the hungry. And they have now health care for the homeless. I mean, how cool is that? They're going to be the recipients of one of my 1,000 cranes. My whole life, as I said, I've been kind of doing a little here and a little there. Now that I'm not in my no, I'm not in my 70s anymore. I just hit 80, and I'm slowing down, I have to admit. So I'm part of the Raging Grannies. We have t-shirts that said act your rage, and we go to political events and we sing political songs that promote women and try to educate men. So I'm a Raging Granny. I have on our Facebook page, for those of us who had polio, which is what I had twice, I monitor the page, And there's no new information about that anymore because, there's not much that, can be told. But I send out positive messages every day to people from around the world who also contracted that disease, which has taught me a lot as well. I don't ever want to say people shouldn't get diseases because you learn a lot about who yourself and what you can do with what you got. What else do I do? Oh, I'm the person who monitors the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, which is one of the first peace organizations in the world. What else do I do? Well, I'm part of the Swedish American group, and we have a number of programs each year. And as I said to Jenna, please come and help us teach how to make the flower crowns for the maypole dance. And I'm giving a talk next month about my trip to Gotland, Sweden last summer. And I have found relatives through DNA in Sweden who are alive that I didn't even know existed. And I have 17 living cousins in Sweden that I had no idea existed because of having blood drawn. And I visited 8 times in the last 9 years. Because of COVID, couldn't go, but anyway, those are a few of the things.
Is that why were you adopted? Is that why you're finding a new family?
No, I just didn't realize that my grandmother had a brother that was still in Sweden and had family, and they talk about Swedish low birth rate, but each one of my grandma's brother had 2 kids, and each one of those had 10. So, it's like 20 kids and 2 families. That's a lot. So I had gone to Japan in 1974, and I was visiting a Japanese woman while I was there, and she took me to a temple that had bunches of these. And I said, what are those? And she said, well, that's origami, and that's a crane. And I said, what's a crane? And she said, well, it's a symbol of long life. If you make 1,000 of these, you can have a wish, and you can live a long life. That's what we believe. And I said, well, teach me. And she did, and I bought 1,000 pieces of paper. 9 months later, I had 1,000 made, and I string either 40 or 50 on a string. And I had that 1,000 done, and I thought, I should give this to somebody. I didn't want to keep it. So I had a student who was dropping out her senior year, December 8th. I remember that day. She was dropping out. She was bored, and we couldn't figure out ways to try to stimulate her and keep her there. And I thought, Mary needs something that will help her know that somebody cares about her. So I gave her that first 1,000. And then I thought, well, I should make some more. So I made another 1,000. And I thought, well, I should give these away. So there was a Catholic sister friend of mine, Sister Raphael Narcissi, who's been dead for now maybe 10 years. She did a lot of peace work. Now I gave her 1,000. And I thought, well, this is kind of fun. It's like a meditation. I really enjoy this. And I don't like to just sit and do nothing. I like to, do something with my hands. So I made a third 1,000, and I thought, well, I should have a project. So I thought, well, I know, I'll make 1 crane for every nuclear weapon. And I thought, well, how am I going to find out how many nuclear weapons there are? And so I started researching and thought, oh, look at how many we have, look at how many Russia has, And Pakistan got them, and India got them, and Israel never tells us how many they got, but we know. So, over the years, I thought, well, maybe 50,000. So that was my goal. Well, I hit 50,000, and I, got to keep going. So,
Wow.
But I've given different groups that are working for peace in some way or form. Desmond Tutu received 1,000 of my cranes. Jane Goodall was here at Milwaukee. I got to meet her at UWM. Alice Walker was here at UWM. I got to meet her, and I had this garbage bag full of cranes, and she looked at me, and I said, I have a present for you. And she looked at her staff and, looked back at me, and I pulled them out, and she went, ah. Most of them haven't been famous people. They've been more local. recently gave the Black Holocaust Museum. They're hanging up now. The Jewish Museum has 1,000 right over their desk when you come in. I'm giving Habitat for Humanity 1,000 in 6 months when they have finished their redecorating and would have a nice place to put them. So Jenna thought I only had 90, but I finished my 100,000 recently, and as long as I can keep my fingers going, I will keep doing them. But, in terms of volunteering, I was lamenting the fact that I didn't have one big thing in my life that I could put all my energies into. But this friend of mine said, well, Cookie, why don't you just have lots of little things that you can, contribute. So, that's what I've been doing, is little big things. And it's satisfying. I wish I had a big thing, like many of you have. It's awesome to hear, what you're doing and the outreach that you have and the impact that you have. Congratulations. I think you're just absolutely marvelous. And those of you in the back, thank you as well for, how you support all of this. That, we're trying to make the world, one, and trying to recognize how we're all connected and how beautiful we all are no matter what. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
That's pretty, the small things are
Yeah.
honest.
I'm happy.
Yeah, Cookie, 100,000 small things can become a big thing.
Yeah.
It is a big thing. Does anyone have any questions or comments or feedback for Cookie?
One thing I would say is, I wish I
If
pulled-
I had
Hold on.
known, I should have. So, if you can get me addresses, I can
gonna
make
send
sure
you guys-
that all of
Maybe we
you,
should have a gathering.
all
we
of
can
you
teach us.
get one.
Yeah.
Is it possible for like maybe one of my Breakfast with Champions events, I can book you maybe to like do like a origami night at your
Yeah,
art
I'm
gallery,
doing
something
Burner
like that.
Botanical Gardens on Friday. We're doing butterflies, and I just did the Sienna Center in Racine. We did peace cranes there for International Peace Day. Yeah, I'd be happy to
I
come.
love that. And this is the weaving I'm talking about. So, Zach was saying something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you have such a great presence about yourself when you say you wish you didn't have, a big thing. You have so many amazing gifts. Like, and one of my main, I get a takeaway from all you guys, which is amazing. But one of the first questions you asked over there, it was like within 2 minutes of meeting, you asked Ollie, "What dream do you have?" And that was such an amazing question, and that like sparked the idea of, instead of just surface level conversations of what the weather's like, or what's your nonprofit, of that deep question, and just like your presence, like I'll carry that with me forever, in the sense of just what is your dream, and like it's such a cool question, and I appreciate that a lot.
Well, I wanted to include her, so.
That was such a great
I love
great
that.
question and a great reminder.
I think that's a very good point. Something else that I really wanted to highlight about Cookie is it is so important the way that we speak. I've thought very long and hard about how I wanted to present myself as Harmonic Harvest, because I could say with a megaphone to the entire world, maybe just this table, and each and every one of you could take away and perceive what I said very differently. So the way that we communicate with each other is really important, especially giving grace for when we might say something that is wrong. And she helped me gain more insight about what I wanted Harmonic Harvest to be as an organization. So she invited me to an event. She messaged me and she said, "Do you want to come to a peace lantern making event?" And I kind of been saying yes to every gathering because it's like field research. And because I want to, but really I'm like, yeah, let me see what this is about. So I showed up, and it became apparent to me that this was, you know, I'll get to where you want me to be, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is like an anti-war event. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, is this Harmonic Harvest? At the time, I'm thinking, what is Harmonic Harvest? Is it every gathering that brings people together? Because there's a lot of those. You know, I mentioned I wanted to be inclusive, non-judgmental, compassionate, and am I sitting here and I'm like, okay, so they had different booths that had information about war and peace, and they had a speaker come from the Capitol talking about bills and legislation that was going in, and they had a woman who came and both sides of her family were impacted by nuclear war. They had music that was inspired by peace, so like the IRA in Ireland, and they just went through all these different countries and decades of time, and I saw people dancing and coming together and making cranes and making lanterns, and I thought to myself, if somebody could walk through this door and say, you know what, I do feel like war should happen sometimes. I do feel like there are instances where it's necessary. How would that go? Would they welcome that person? Would they have conversations with that person? And I genuinely felt like that's how it would go. And so I was talking to her about it, and I said, you know, it was really inspiring to me because that is what I want Harmonic Harvest to be. I want it to be, this is what we're doing, but anyone should come. Just like with Fierce Talks, like, you know, I'm talking about lighthearted, fun, all the things, but like also like we should have spaces where we can go and say, I watched the Republican debate and they asked questions about war and no one answered the question really. You know, they made comments here and comments there, and some comments I thought were really good, and then I have this thought that says, are they telling the truth? Like, is this actually what they mean? Is this really what's going to happen if they were to be elected as our president? And coming to this event, I felt like I had so much more knowledge about wars, and I just kind of was just impressed by the energy of people that were passionate and trying to make a difference, not necessarily the topic, you know? And she says to me, we shouldn't really say anti-war. Not a lot of people are really for war. It's not like something that we're excited about. We should really phrase it as for peace. As soon as we start saying anti, it shuts down the conversation. And you're right. Don't gotta tell me twice. I 100% agree with you. And now moving forward, I will change the way that I'm talking. And for that, like, I thank you for providing that space of like educating. And I'm hoping that by people watching this and the journey that we're about to take with Harmonic Harvest, it creates more of those spaces where we can just continue to grow. So thank you.
I just wanted to say, listening to you speak, I got a little glossy-eyed because, I mean, I think there is such a thing to be said about generational gaps right now in our society and how we are connecting through the generations and what each generation had to deal with. And I'm actually really pushing right now for Northern Door Pride to bring a certain generation, your generation, to Door County to talk about their experience in growing up. I went to this United Way focus group for LGBTQ residents in Door County, and this man who's like pushing 90 was there, and he was telling these stories that were just so profound, and just listening to you just kind of reminded me of that time of like how we need to learn from those people who were the trailblazers, and you are a trailblazer, and just from listening to you speak in that short amount of time. And what we can learn as the younger generation, as even in my generation, you know, I'm in my 40s, and like talking to these young LGBTQ people in their 20s, like their experience is way different than mine, as is this man who was 90 years old, and it was just very inspiring. And I think overall, this discussion here tonight was incredibly inspiring, Jenna, and it lit a fire under my butt just listening to all of you speak. And it's crazy how different we all are and what we're accomplishing and what we're doing within our the realm of what we work with and what art, artists, fitness, having Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is the only I think organization here that is a nationwide, having that representation is amazing. And like, even though we're all so different, I like literally learned so much about not only what else I want to do personally, but what we can do collectively is incredible. So I just thank you for all you've done, and thank you for bringing us all together.
Thanks for having me over today. I heard a great response from our collaborative conversation. Everyone that came said that they love you and they just wanted to know you a little bit more. So I wanted to talk about how you have gotten into volunteering, but also the deeper reasoning behind it. When volunteering, it makes you feel good. Like, why do you do it?
Well, humanity needs help. And, I figure with my abilities in certain areas, I can, make a difference. So that's always been my motive, is to try to help in different areas. And at one point, I was in a group and I was kind of bemoaning the fact that I didn't have one major thing. And this man said, well, maybe you could have a lot of little major things. And so I've looked at my life and I thought, yeah, I've had a lot, because I kind of do a little here and I do a little there. And not that I get bored, but it's just, my interests are kind of all over the place. And so I haven't stuck with one thing. I've really enjoyed having a variety of ways of meeting people and helping out. So.
Have you met a lot of people from volunteering?
Yeah, I was in Honduras. I vaccinated with my partner 4,000 little kids for DPT and polio. And my major thing there was I had polio as a child. And, I saw what happened to me and I thought, well, this vaccine could help a lot of kids not get it. And so when I would go to these little villages in Honduras, all the children who had polio saw me, because I have a long leg brace and, I wore a skirt and, my brace was very visible, and those kids knew, here's somebody who had polio as well. And I was trying to help their sisters and brothers and, neighbors not to get that.
Wow.
So, yeah, I met a lot of people there and that was amazing.
That's incredible. How did you get into that? Like, how do you find an opportunity to go to Honduras?
I'm not sure how I learned about that, but, somehow I learned and signed up, and we had 6 months of training, 2 nights a week, learning how to give shots and, trying to learn some Spanish. I can say no duele mucho really well. This isn't going to hurt, But I have some lifelong friends from that. 2 of my dearest friends I met getting the same training as I did. And they went to Nicaragua, and one of my friends adopted a little Nicaraguan child. And she's now, I think, 43.
Wow.
So. Yeah, she would have died had she stayed in Honduras, because she has cystic fibrosis. And, the people in Honduras just didn't have money for that kind of thing. So at that point, Nicaragua, probably Honduras as well, only allowed children with disabilities to be adopted. So there are quite a few families here in Milwaukee who took in children who had disabilities.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was one area. But, doing hospice work was really an eye-opener as well. My parents were maybe in their late 70s at the time. Not sure, I'm not clear about dates. But I wanted to see people die. I mean, maybe that sounds pretty bad, but I wanted to see how people managed how families managed with somebody dying. And so I did hospice volunteering for 7 years and saw over that span of time, I saw 36 people die. And one person was right in front of me when he passed.
Right.
And others were very close, hours, and then they were gone. But I saw families learn how to cope. I saw how they grieved. I saw how they managed to have their dearest loved one die. Big truck.
How did that impact you? You went in wanting to learn and see the experience that people are going through when they're about to die, meeting people who then die. Like, what did you take away from that?
People are pretty resilient, and people are very accepting. Some of the people, really fought and had a hard time with it, and I understand, when you're, for instance, one family, the fellow had ALS, and when I met him, he couldn't talk anymore, nor could he eat, and his wife had to eat in order to keep caring for him. And so I would sit, with him in the living room, and his wife would go off into the kitchen and cry and cry and cry because she could eat and she knew her husband couldn't. And I mean, she was so filled with pain, but she kept going. And she had gnarled fingers, and her family, her sons and daughters, wanted her to put him into an assisted living or, into a nursing home. She said, no, he's staying here. I don't care. I'm going to do everything to keep him here. And I saw how tough she was in spite of her fingers and in spite of not being able to do as much for him that she wanted. But hospice was very helpful. I didn't physically do work. I mean, I could feed people sometimes, or, I could read to them, or I could just sit and hold their hand while maybe their loved one went off to swim or to get groceries or go to a movie. But I saw, a kind of a spread of humanity and how they could deal with the impact of the gradual loss of that person.
How did that change you?
Well, it's a tough one. I'm scared of death. I think, it's a one-way journey to be born, and, you got to die, and, none of us know how that's going to happen. But I'm starting to, at age 80, start to do some things to make it easier, for my loved ones to take care of everything that they'll have to take care of. My parents sold their house when they were like in their early 80s, and I was so grateful, and they did it on purpose. They didn't want me to have to deal with emptying a house and selling a house and doing all that. So I moved here as a way to help not have to empty my house. I had a lot of stuff. I still have a lot of stuff. So, I feel bad for, my stepdaughter to have to deal with everything.
You're very mindful and intentional. And I think that's a topic that some people might fear, or they might not want to open that door because they don't want to accept it. But it's reality.
Yep.
I'm almost 33, and I think about those things too.
Oh, you got a long way to go.
We never know, though.
Well, no.
I hope so, but at the end of the day, we never know. And I think it's really incredible that you have used your life experiences, like having polio, or curiosities, like wanting to know more about death and dying, and then just even your passions. You said, I get bored, so you want to, expand the opportunities of how you give back. And I think that's something that hopefully people learn and take away from this. There's so many different ways and reasons why we can get involved.
Yes. Well, one of the good things about the Catholic Church that they hardly ever talk about are the corporal works of mercy. and it's feeding the hungry, and it's clothing the naked, and it's visiting the imprisoned, and it's, taking care of people in all aspects of life. And I've tried to, tick off different, ones of those.
Right.
So I visited a guy that was in Oshkosh. He was in Waupun first. He had robbed a store, and so they first sent him to Oshkosh, and then he got transferred. I mean, he was at Waupun, and then he went to Oshkosh, and so I visited him once a month for 2.5 years, and he was a great guy. I had a lot of respect for him. He did that because he wanted money for drugs, and but I felt bad that he just couldn't find the oomph within him to get his life back on track. I have no idea where he is now. He might be back in Waupun for a long time, but he's a great guy.
It means a lot to me that you look past some of the things that people have done because of the deeper meaning, their struggle, like having the disease of addiction or struggling with mental health, and saying, I'll still sit with you and talk to you and treat you like a human and see how I can help you and where we can go from here. I also really like how you mentioned your belief system. That's something that I think about a lot. I've done a lot of research on different types of Christianity, the Bible. I've looked into Taoism, met with masters, and talked to a lot of different people about different religions. Even if you feel like you don't have a religion, at the end of the day, there's this overlapping theme about having compassion and helping one another.
Yeah, it's the golden rule.
And in some ways, I hope Harmonic Harvest has people look inward in that way of what do I believe and what is the bigger meaning to my life and my purpose. Because I feel like we all have something to contribute.
Absolutely.
It doesn't always have to be something huge. It could be a bunch of little things.
Yeah.
Even just smiling at somebody while you're going down the street. But to give your time, I think, is one of the most valuable things we can do for others.
Well, and there are so many ways you can do that.
What are some of the ways you have seen?
Well, as part of St. Ben's meal program, I went to that church at the time. It's over on 10th and State here in Milwaukee. And people saw the need of hunger. And so, I didn't start it myself, but I was a teeny little part, because I would go and help, distribute the food and as people went down the line and stuff. But, then that's been going on for 40 some years. Then they saw the need for people to get health care, and so they started, a health care for homeless. And I think any individual can, plug into feeding people, or talking to people, or helping at a school. A lot of people could just help and volunteer and tutor, or just read books to kids, or I mean, there are so many things that people can do.
So many people have skill sets that nonprofits could use.
Yes.
Whether it's helping with roofing, landscaping, accounting. There's a whole list of things,
Yeah.
but I think if you look for help that's needed, you're going to find it. And I think it's a great way for people to meet other people. Like you said, you've made lifelong friends. People have adopted children because of volunteering.
Yes.
And I think it helps, like I said, make us feel like we have a life with more purpose.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about how you got arrested?
Sure.
We had our collaborative conversation, and she's like, there's so many things I didn't say. I didn't even talk about how I got arrested. And I'm like, what? What happened?
Well, it depends. My mother used to say, now don't get too arrested. because she was worried that, I might have to spend some time in jail, and she didn't want that, and of course neither did I, but there are times that you just have to cross lines.
You mentioned nuclear war.
Yeah, I've been out at the nuclear test site in Nevada. It's 65 miles south of Las Vegas. And now you can tour. They have buses that you can get on, and they don't allow pregnant women because there's still, radioactivity that go on the base. So they say, if you're pregnant, you can't go on this tour. But they take you and, drive you around and take you to one of the mission areas where they would be detonating nuclear weapons. And, they were still testing at the site until about 15 years ago. And so I wanted that to stop. And just last month, there was a boat that came to Milwaukee called Golden Rule that in the 50s, some Quakers from Philadelphia got on that boat and they sailed out to the Marshall Islands. And that's where the U.S. was testing above ground. And those men, they got arrested, and I don't know how long they spent in jail for that. But now some vets for peace are sailing around the Great Lakes, stopping at cities like Milwaukee and Kenosha and Racine and Chicago and, all around the different cities that are on the Great Lakes, and talking about how dangerous it is with nuclear weapons.
Right.
And now that the Hamas has invaded, well, not invaded, but bombed Israel, I mean, who knows? The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists has moved that second hand to about 3 seconds to midnight. And, it's a dangerous world. We don't know what Putin might do. And so I had gone out to the Nevada test. I have some pictures of me in handcuffs being taken away. And the first time I was out there, I had a nice camera with me, and I didn't know how they were going to treat us or what they would do, so I gave it to the stranger and said, I'll be back at some point. I don't know when, but here's my camera. The second time I went out there, I gave her the keys to my car.
So you got them back?
Yeah, I got them back. Yeah,
What
good
are the
people go on these
odds?
things, so, yeah.
I like how you talked about, volunteering in various different forms, and one of them was more about standing up for what you believe is justice and making change. These are the kind of conversations that I hope can happen with Harmonic Harvest, because you and I could completely disagree on some of the things you just said. Maybe I agree a lot with some of the things you just said. Some people that are watching could completely disagree. But it's up for having a conversation, because you mentioned what's going on with Israel, and we should be able to talk about it.
Yes.
It doesn't need to be, I'm gonna, not say anything because I'm worried about offending someone or saying the wrong thing. It's about learning, growing, figuring out maybe where can I help, what kind of difference can I make? Is it donating money? Is it showing up? There's all these different resources and programs that exist out there for all of us to figure out where we align. And having difficult conversations is one of the most important parts of that.
Yes, exactly.
So one of the last questions that I have, some of the stuff that you have mentioned, it is very heavy. What do you do for you to decompress or to kind of take care of yourself? You give a lot to other people, and I know a lot of people who kind of are wired that way. You'll give, but what do you give for yourself?
Well, breathing helps. I can't solve probably 99.99% of all problems on the planet. I can only do my little piece. And when I realize that I'm giving a piece, I know that more people need to be giving pieces. And so I just kind of say, well, I did what I could. And it helps to breathe, to take in air and let go of frustration, and take in air and let go of anger, and take in air and let go and let go and let go. I mean, you have to let go of all that's out there that's worrisome, and take in the good air and hope it's good air.
I agree. Staying grounded is really important for me too.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to go take a closer look at those cranes. You have a lot of them.
Yeah. 100,000
100,000 cranes.
and more.
All inspired by a trip you had in Japan.
Yes.
And I think that also goes to show that there's no experience that could be so small. How many people were in Japan with you or have gone on different trips and heard that messaging and walked away and they didn't really take maybe something from it, maybe later on in life they took something from it, but you really took it and ran. And you've changed a lot of lives with it.
Yeah, that's been fun.
So let's go take a look.
All right.
Okay.
So yeah, I do either 40 on a string or 50 on a string. If they're smaller, I do 50, and if they're larger, I do 40.
How do you decide that you want to give them?
Well, I usually look for, I always look for a piece, a group working for peace, or an individual working for peace in some way. So like Jane Goodall, I gave her 1,000, and I gave Archbishop Desmond Tutu 1,000, and Joan Baez, and Holly Near, and Alice Walker. Different people who are either writing or trying to save chimpanzees or trying to bring people together in South Africa. Some way that people are working for peace.
Give me life, oh, show me how. You show me how, 'cause I just wanna feel.
So thanks, Danika, for being here. We just wanted to shed light on everything that Neil has said when it comes to volunteers and mentors working with youth here.
Yeah.
I thought it would be good to get, sorry, that threw me off. Okay, redo. Thank you, Danika, for being here. I thought it would be nice to share a perspective of somebody that's working with Big Brother, Big Sisters of Metro Milwaukee, and your experience and what it's been like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could take you back to when I decided to be a Big. I had always been interested in the Big Brothers, Big Sisters program, and I looked at it in college. Looking back now, I realize I did have time. Like, you always think you don't have time in college, and then you really don't have time as an adult. So that always kind of deterred me at first, but it was always a little seed planted in my mind. And then fast forward to meeting my now husband. He always also kind of wanted to be in the program. And then one day he was like, why don't we just do it together? And then I realized we could do a couples match, and then it kind of just all like worked out. We're going on almost 2 years now as a big couple, and it's just been super rewarding. Like I've really enjoyed it.
What is a couples match?
So basically, my husband and I, we have a little brother. He's 8 years old, and we spend a few days a month just hanging out with them. We went apple picking, we go to the movies, whatever it may be. Maybe it's just like we're gonna go take a walk or just have lunch or breakfast. He loves pancakes, so we love doing that. But really it's just hanging out with them, really, paying attention and honing into who they are as a young individual. He has got the just most astounding emotional intelligence for an 8-year-old that I've ever met or been with in my entire life. So it's, to me, I want to harness that and use it for good for him instead of for bad. So my goal really with him is just to always be teaching him something, whether it's a lesson to be learned from us or from him, always taking something and learning and using it for something better. So.
Oh, I love that. I think it's great that it seems like you try to give him a lot of different things in different ways, but he also gives to you.
So much.
How so?
Absolutely. I mean, to be completely honest, I mean, sometimes you're just like, you had a busy work week and you have to see your family and friends and your life becomes so busy and overwhelming that sometimes it's kind of like, oh man, we really need to hang out with our little guy, and just trying to fit that in. I'm being completely honest, but every time we do make that moment special, it's just like so rewarding. There's been numerous times where he'll look at my husband and I and he'll be like, we were with people actually once, and they're like, oh, is this your son? And we're like, oh, kind of. He's our little brother. And he looked at us and he was like, I'm like their son, yeah. And I was like, that is so sweet. So just knowing that you're another person that he can look up to in his life and go to if he's ever having a problem or is frustrated, and can talk to someone that's outside of his family that doesn't have a bias or anything. It's just really eye-opening, not only to like his culture that he's living in, but to us in so many ways.
That's honestly beautiful.
Thanks.
I bet you've seen a lot in 2 years.
Yes, totally. He is a fiery little guy. It makes us laugh all the time. He loves our dog. He thinks it's like his little brother. So he hangs around us and like he's come to our house, and he's just so fun to be around, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. What would you want to say to people listening about what it's like to really be there for someone else and to give your time in that way?
I think to me, sometimes you go through the process and you're like, am I making a difference? What is my impact? In my brain, I'm always like, I want to see like what that impact is. And you don't always see it, but I look back in my life and think of mentors I had, and they wouldn't know that they were a mentor to me, but they stick out substantially in my mind for small things that they either said or did. Or you think of like a kindergarten teacher that maybe said one thing to you and it stuck with you. Just all it takes, I think, is like one person to believe in you. And I think it's making me tear up. I think that's the most important thing. Sorry.
No, I'm gonna tear up.
That we can do is just, John and I can be there and we can believe in him. And I think that that's what they need. And I look back at my life, and I think when you just have that one person that believes in you, you can do so much, right? Like you don't set limits for yourself anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think just being that mentor, being the person that just sheds like a little bit of light. I've definitely seen it where I've said something to him that I kind of had to correct him a little bit, and then months later he'll come back and literally repeat what I said, and I was like, so you were listening. Like you totally didn't look like you were listening, but you were. So, I mean, there's so many like just little bits of joy in the process. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more that just one person can make a difference. A lot that you said resonated with me. I was thinking about when I was young, that one thing that someone said, they had no idea I took it with me. Mm-hmm. And now we're sharing it with other people along the way, and really just listening to somebody. I mean, that is a huge thing that I'm trying to share with Harmonic Harvest that has kind of been lost, it feels like sometimes, in our society. And if we could just show up for each other and listen to each other, and know that as I'm helping you, it's helping me, and we can both be a part of this together. Another thing you had mentioned with time, someone had once told this to me, and now I'm gonna share it. If we take, let's see, I gotta do math. So there is 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. So there's 168 hours in a week. And if you were to subtract 40 hours, that's maybe how many hours you go to work. You can even throw in
your commute time.
You're right. You know, let's say that's 15 hours. And then how many hours do you sleep at night? 8 times 7, 57. So, you know, that's 56. And then you add in time for food. I don't know, let's say I eat a lot, I feel. I'm just gonna round up and say 15 hours. I still got 41 hours, and you like keep going into
Laundry, grocery shopping,
and
just
then
little things.
like, and you can even like over exaggerate, and I swear we have so much time, and you can even look at that and say, okay, even if it's 10 hours of that extra time and you don't feel like you have it because you're so busy, it's like for us to look at our schedules and think, how can I manage my time a little bit better? And how am I prioritizing it? What is worth it to me? And knowing it's kind of like the gym. Like once I show up, maybe I didn't want to get there, but once I'm there, it feels really good. Same with volunteering. Like once you're there, it's like, this is why I come. This is why I do this.
Totally. I had that experience too. So I was Miss Wisconsin USA in 2019, and that's really to where a lot of my passion came for volunteering. And so many of those times I was working a full-time job, I was prepping for Miss USA, like working out 2 times a day, working 40 hours a week, going to events probably 5 days a week to make appearances. And, you know, sometimes at the end of the day, you're just like, oh, I'm exhausted. But I can say 100% of the time, every time I showed up for an Alzheimer's walk or whatever it may be, I had these small, meaningful conversations with people that were there for a reason. Their loved one passed away with Alzheimer's or whatever it was. Like, I always left being like, that was amazing. Like, there was never a time where I went to something that I was giving back at and was like, that was a waste of my time. Like, never. So it just shows you that it's so worthwhile.
Right. Those type of things definitely help me feel like I'm living a life with purpose.
100%. Yes.
You mentioned a lot. What do you do for you?
That's a good question. Well, I always love my drives in and out of work. I love just listening to music, relaxing. I take a lot of walks. So my husband and I will walk our dog all the time. And those are our moments to like just put our phones away, just be outside, relax, chat, catch up. I do host a podcast and I love writing. So those things, although they seem kind of like another busy thing, to me it's connecting with people. And it started in 2020 when we couldn't really connect with people. And I just love listening to all these individuals, walks of life, stories. And it's actually related to purpose. So it's like, everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a story and a platform to share things that they go through. So I just love connecting with people. I enjoy my time with family, and you know, I just try to take time to rest. I love a good Netflix show once in a while. I mean, just the simple things too, you know.
Well, you're very passionate and driven, and I'm excited to see where you go from here.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time to come and just shed the light on what we think we know, but we don't really know until we get to hear a little bit deeper. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I just wanted to say that I was so inspired by Danika and this entire experience, so I signed up to be a big sister. I can't wait to see who I get paired with. I just was so amazed by how 3 of Harmonic Harvest grant recipients partnered together already. Like all of this has happened so quickly, and it was Breakfast with Champions, Big Brother Big Sister of Metro Milwaukee, La Gente Art, who you still have yet to meet, and you know, a whole group of people decided there are over 570 kids on this wait list. Let's not just have a toy drive where you can have a concert. It was like a Breakfast with Champions experience, but it was breakfast with toys. And you could sign up to be a mentor for Big Brother Big Sister of Metro Milwaukee, and they had just amazing turnout of we ran out of room for people to sign up that were interested in being a mentor. And I'm so excited to like hang out with my friends and these people that I'm meeting around the city with our littles. Like, it's gonna be so much fun. So I just wanted to say that if you've been looking for more information about ways that you could be a mentor, it doesn't just have to be with Big Brother Big Sister of Metro Milwaukee. It could be any of them around the state or country or wherever they are, but it could be any organization, and it doesn't have to just be with youth. It could be with adults, it could be with students, it could be about your craft and the things that you love to do. If you want to help pass down knowledge and help, you know, someone who's willing to learn, and I promise they're gonna teach you things too, it's just gonna be like an incredible experience for you. I know I, of all people, definitely feel like, do I have time? But I'd make time for other things. I'll make time for a Bucks game. I'll make time for a fashion show. Why would I not make time for a little? So I'm here for it. And if you are struggling with how you can find ways to be a mentor, maybe the Harmonic Harvest app can help with that. All right, take care.